Hello and welcome to The Stand with Eamon Dunphy. This podcast comes to you in association with Tesco Finest, because Tesco believe that the finest conversation should be accompanied by the finest food. We're very appreciative of Tesco's sponsorship. They're very supportive of us, and without them, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And what we're going to do today is talk to Hamann and Giles about this week's Champions League football, which has been exhilarating and a touch controversial, about the video assistant referee system, which is now in place for the Champions League and was used this week, somewhat controversially. Didi, first of all, the game on Tuesday, Spurs, Manchester City. City, many people's favourites to win the Champions League, although I have to say not mine. With Harry Kane off the pitch, with an injury, after a kind of dour struggle of a game, Spurs won. City's performance, Didi, what did you make of it?
Well, it wasn't much of a performance, was it?
No.
I was pretty disappointed. This is a team that's been struggling in recent weeks in the league. They near enough play with the same 11 most weeks. They haven't got the strengths and depth as certainly City has, and also Liverpool. And if you go to Spurs in a quarter final, I think you've got to be dominant, and you have to try to control the game and give yourself a good shot at getting into the semis. Guardiola afterwards, I think he tried to sugarcoat a really poor performance because they were non-existent. They got that penalty, which I probably wouldn't have given. That was the only serious chance they had. And they got beat by a goal. The goalkeeper should have saved. There wasn't an awful lot in the game, but I think they're up against it now. People still the bookmakers still make him strong favourites to win the home game and go through. I've got a different view on that. I was very disappointed by them. And the one thing that really I think could have an impact on the future, or the remainder of the season, to bring on De Bruyne and Sané, I think in the yes. 1 or 2 minutes to go, I was flabbergasted, because from a player's point of view, you go, what is this all about? We concede, we've got another, I don't know, half an hour, 20 minutes to score a goal. And I wonder what it does to these players' mindsets, to these players' confidences, to be brought on in the 89th minute when you're losing 1-0. And we talk about Leroy Sané, who's probably the most effective player going forward.
Yes.
And we know what De Bruyne can do, even though he's not having the best spell. But in recent weeks, I felt his performance were a little bit better. So I was really surprised by the performance. And then I've got to say I was very, very surprised by the decision to bring these guys on with a minute to go. Yeah,
I mean, Giles, I think we were both surprised as well, because we were talking during the match. We watched it together. The decision to bring them on, to leave them out in the first place, was strange. I mean, you were very critical of Gundogan, I think, maybe even starting the game, and Bernardo Silva, he was left out too. Mahrez played. I know you were more impressed. I agree with Didi about City's performance. I didn't think it was good, but you were more convinced, should we say, by it than I was.
City's performance?
Yeah.
No, I thought it was terrible, Eamon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was surprised, first of all, that the two players you mentioned, Bruyne and Sané, is left out.
Yeah.
Now, I do appreciate that he has to rotate the squad.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. But in such an important match for Sané and De Bruyne, and I'd agree with Didi, De Bruyne hasn't been playing well this year, Eamon.
Yeah.
I don't think he's playing his proper position. I think he's too far forward. He's the most creative player they have.
Yeah.
Actually, if you take De Bruyne away in the City team, Eamon, they don't have any real creation. in the middle of the field.
Well, they have David Silva, but he tends to play more forward.
Yeah, on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
He's on the left-hand. But the players that control the game are the midfield.
Yeah, the playmaker really.
The playmaker.
Last season, we could say, I think, and probably agree, that De Bruyne was the player who drove them forward when they really needed it, and when they needed to turn games, big games.
Yeah. Well, he played as the schemer, as we used to call him, years ago, in the middle of the field. Now, he got an injury, okay, but since he's come back, he's playing too far forward, right? And he is dependent, the way City played him on, the way he is dependent on somebody to give him the ball rather than the other way round.
Yes.
And there's nobody there capable of doing that. Fernandinho can't do it.
No.
Gundogan is I don't think exactly.
I thought there was a defensive mindset there. He played Fernandinho and Gundogan, who are both, well, I suppose Fernandinho in particular is not a creative player. But that was the choice he had, to play De Bruyne or Gundogan.
Yeah, but the thing is with De Bruyne, even when De Bruyne has been playing, he hasn't been playing in the position he was playing last year.
He's played forward.
And then once he's playing forward, who's going to give him the ball?
Right.
There's nobody there to do it. Right, so he should be playing deep in the position that he played last year and supply. That's what he's really there for. So if he's dependent on people to get the ball to him, there's nobody to do it.
Now, the Spurs performance...
So, sorry, just to finish on that. So, but see, in recent weeks, in the semi-final of the Cup last week against Brighton, they haven't been playing well.
No.
Manchester City at all, in my opinion.
No.
And the way they're playing, Eamon, is when anybody's on the ball in the middle of the field, if there's a choice, a 50-50 choice of taking it forward or taking it back, they're going back. It's too predictable in what they're doing. It's okay keeping possession. And again, you go back to De Bruyne, who could do that. There's nobody there. It's either going sideways, back. I thought they were very, very poor against Brighton. In the matches against Fulham and where they played the lesser opposition, I know they went up early on. But after that, they didn't play. I don't think they played well.
Now, in
recent time at all. No. And the idea of leaving De Bruyne out and Sané, I know he's got to rotate, but in such an important match, you would think that I have to play my best players in this particular match. And then rest them for the Premiership game. That's my opinion. But I don't think. I think it's all been all over the papers. City are favourites. I don't think they are in the way that they're playing at the moment.
No, the games previously, the Brighton game, where they went 1-0 up after 4 minutes, and then really they just played keep ball. It was like a training session. Before that, 3 days earlier, they played Cardiff. Again, got an early goal and again played keep ball. And 4 days before that, against Fulham, two early goals. They started very sharp at Fulham. It was after the international break. But after that, they took their foot off the pedal and passed it around. And a lethargy and a sort of lack of tempo and urgency has crept into the side.
Well, whether that's the case, I'm not too sure. As John alluded to, they played less opposition in Cardiff and Fulham. And it's also a sign of confidence and strength in a way to be able to see games out by just passing the ball and taking the sting out of the game. So I wouldn't really hold it against them, but I think they certainly lacked urgency in the game against Spurs, because you know what Spurs is all about. They're an aggressive team who like to play fast and like to play forward when they do get the ball. And they just never had control. And what I was really surprised, because a central midfield with Sissoko and wings, I expected City to control that midfield. And I think that was what John alluded to with Fernandinho and Gundogan. And at no time in the game, I had a feeling that City controlled the game. And that was really something which surprised me. Which doesn't bode well for the return leg, and also doesn't bode well for the remainder of the league, because they still play the derby against United. They still got Leicester, and
Spurs.
They probably have the slightly harder running. And I didn't like it all what I saw on Tuesday.
John?
Yeah, I would agree. Again, Didi, if you don't control it in the midfield, no matter who you're playing up front or at the back, that's where the games are won and lost.
Yes.
And I think with Fernandinho and Gundogan, they're not going to do it, Eamon.
No.
The only chance they have, the only player they have that can do that, go back again, is Bruyne, which he did last season. And I'm amazed. I know he got an injury and he hasn't been playing particularly well. I think actually the last match he played a lot better. But he's playing too far forward, Hamann. And I know I'm repeating myself, but it's so important that he's the only one that is a creative force. He has to play in that position.
I think he has been sulky. There's something wrong. Every time he's played since he came back from injury, the first couple of games he was taken off very early in the game. A half an hour to go, walked straight past Guardiola, and there seems to be something not right.
Do you know what it could be, Eamon? He knows he's not playing in the right position.
Right, yeah.
You know, he knows. I'd say to bring it knows. He knows this is my best position. He was Player of the Year last year.
Yeah, he was. He was he was their Player of the Year, and he was the man.
The man.
Yeah.
And he's not the man this year, Eamon.
Now, Didi, you know him from his time playing in Germany as well, before he came to England, played for Chelsea. Has he got a tendency to sulk?
I'm not sure whether he's got a tendency to sulk, but he's certainly a flair or a confidence player.
Yes.
You know, this is a player when things go well, there's hardly any better. When things don't go well, I don't think he's a player to turn things round.
Right.
And you know, I can only guess what the relationship is at the moment. Also Sané, because Sané played. We had a stat up on Tuesday. He's only played 51% of the competitive minutes this season.
Right.
Yeah, he's only started about just over 50% of the games. So he sat on the bench for near enough half the games this season, and I think he's been the most effective. I think he's the most destructive player City have. And if you have these two players, you know, one guy who really led the team last season, and the other guy who's come on leaps and bounds this year, who scores goals, gets assists every time he's on the pitch, Sana, he does something. And I don't see the reason, or as a manager, and obviously I'm not, or we are not here, I'm not here to give advice to Guardiola. I wouldn't dare to bring these two players on with a minute to go when you're 1-0 down away to Tottenham. Yeah. You know, I think in a way it's an insult to these players. If you want to make a change in the game, bring him on with at least 10, 15 minutes to go. Don't bring him on in the 89th minute. And maybe he wants to show that he's the boss. But I think what he did the other day, I think is and was detrimental to these two players' confidence. And also they're a huge part of the team. And if these two players don't perform for the remainder of the season, I don't think they win the league. They certainly won't win the Champions League.
John, it is a curious thing to do, isn't it? To bring two players on, and he brought them on at the same time with a minute to go.
Well, I'll tell you what I find even more unbelievable, that he didn't start with them, Eamon.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Never mind bringing them on.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's an insult to them, bring them on. It's a bigger insult to leave them out.
Yes.
In the first place.
Yes.
That's what, you've got to go back to the basic. What's your best team, especially in a big match? Why are they coming on with him? They're not going to be able to do anything in a minute to go. But the two players, as Didi said, Sané's been very good. De Bruyne, but again, De Bruyne has been playing. He's gone back to it, not in the right position. That's a basic thing that he has to do. Bring him back and play the two of them. Now, obviously, they can't play every game, because he's going to rotate them because they've got so many games.
Yes.
A lot to do, but certainly for the big matches, you can rotate in the right way. And there's no doubt, in my opinion, I agree with Didi, Sané and De Bruyne, two of the best players that they have. If you're going to pick a best team for City, you've got to have De Bruyne playing where he's at his best, and I think that's why he's sulking.
Yeah,
I'm only guessing, and Sané.
Right,
definitely.
Just a question to you, Didi, about the media and the commentators' attitude to City. It's almost a given with most commentators, journalists, observers, analysts, that this is the best team in Europe, and maybe I read this week in the world, the best club team. When they're knocking over, the sort of easy teams in the league, the Fulhams, the Cardiffs and teams like that, they can look mesmerising at times, but the energy and zip and commitment that you really need when you play the big top six sides was noticeably absent the other night. Have they been overrated? Or is it too early to say that on the basis of one result?
Well, we've got to wait. The next few weeks will tell, but I'd be very careful with the best club team. You know, you don't have to have the best team to win the Champions League, but you know, if you have a team that's been successful for a number of years in all competitions, you know, I think it's fair to stake a claim to say this will go down as one of the all-time great football teams.
The only thing they've won is that they won the Premier League by 20 points last year.
But I think City under Guardiola, I don't think they've been past the last 8, have they?
No, they haven't. Monaco turfed them out. And
yeah, so he's there in his third or his fourth year, I think, and they haven't been past the last 8. So how can anybody in the right frame of mind tell me that this is the best football team they've seen? You know, you had Arsenal, who went a season unbeaten, which hasn't been done since. You had the great Barcelona side. You had the AC Milan side of the 90s. Even in the 2000s, you had the AC Milan side. So to be even spoken about in the same breath as some of these teams, well, they've got to win at least one Champions League, probably 2. And the way they've been playing on Tuesday, I think they're probably further away from achieving that than most people think. And I think a lot with that hype around City. They are a good football team. We don't need to talk about that. We all know that. But a lot about that hype surrounds about the myth about Guardiola, that he's the guy who makes things happen. As it happens, all he did so far is win the league with Bayern Munich, which has been done in the last 6 seasons. And he won the Champions League with one team, and that was a team with Iniesta, Xavi, and Messi.
Yep.
Now, unless he wins the Champions League with at least another team, you know, I think people may see him in a different way. He's a very talented manager. I don't think we need to argue about that. But you know, the benchmark is the Champions League, and there's managers out there who won the Champions League with different teams. And I think this is really the task. And I don't want to belittle what he's done at Barcelona, because he was probably a big part of making these players what they have become. But he wasn't the only manager to win the Champions League with a Messi, a Xavi, and an Iniesta. I think Rijkaard won it in his first.
Yeah, Rijkaard won it, yeah.
And Luis Enrique won it as well. So there were other managers who achieved that. So I think it's about time for him to step up and live up to the expectations and the hype he always fuels with certain statements and his behavior towards the press as well. You know, as it is now, I think he can be classed as a very good manager, but to class him an outstanding manager, I think is very, very premature.
John?
Well, I mean, you're talking about the people who are saying these things about him, right? Let's talk about them. He's not saying it. He's not saying he's the best manager ever. He's not. I think he's very modest in what he's saying. So we're judging now the experts that you initiated this discussion about. They don't know anything about it, Eamon, generally, most of them.
Yeah, what do you think?
What?
What do you think?
I think he's a very, very good manager. To compare him as one of the best teams ever is premature, to say the least, Eamon.
Yeah.
But he's not saying it.
Yeah.
You know, like...
It is generally believed and
by who,
accepted. Well, by most commentators.
Commentators.
And people who are analysts, who comment on football, who write about football, that Guardiola is one of the great coaches in the history of the game.
Yeah.
Now, I think, and I'm not of that view.
No,
and the point is this, that Didi would know, because he was at Bayern Munich for 3 seasons. He failed to win the Champions League there, but he did win the Bundesliga. But then most coaches who go to Bayern Munich win the Bundesliga.
Okay, I agree that. But so, who are we talking about, Eamon? We're talking about the commentators and the experts.
Yeah.
Well, they're giving their opinion.
So you don't share the view?
No,
you don't share
not
that
at all.
view?
I think for anybody to say that Manchester City are the best team ever,
no. I mean, are they
one of the best teams ever? Right, is ridiculous.
Yeah. They may not even be the best team in England.
No, but
okay.
We agree that, Eamon. All I'm saying is,
let's talk about Spurs.
Now, hang on. Let me just finish on that. We're talking about the experts. This is what they're saying.
Yeah.
You don't agree with them.
No.
I don't agree with them. right?
No.
But it's not Guardiola that's saying it. We're having a go now at the experts. I don't. Of course, to say any team is the best team ever.
Oh, well, no, forget that statement. But,
no, but that's what
people
you said
are
they were saying.
No,
That's what
I'm
people are
saying they're
saying.
saying they're the best team in Europe and maybe the best club team in the world. I saw that said this week
so have
by
I.
a very prominent commentator.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, okay.
Right. It's
Now,
ridiculous. We're not saying it.
Spurs,
You're not saying it. Okay.
Spurs and Pochettino, Harry Kane out. I thought it was a bad tackle by Fabian Delph, who I think, and I mean, one of the questions I'd ask is, why is Fabian Delph, a former Aston Villa midfield player, playing left back in City's best side in one of their biggest matches in the season? But that's another day's work.